And now it's our time to listen to you guys. So we'll go to the Q&A.
Time for Q&A.
There's a line happening somewhere there.
I think it's here. There it is.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Okay, so we don't have anybody here to help us. So you guys, we're going to take a line right here. Jesse, who's got his hand up here, is going to beginning of the line. We're taking questions about dungeons and raids. So if we have somebody already, come on up. Are you ready? Let's go.
Let's do this.
We almost have a whole half hour.
Who do we got? Come on up. Come on up, stand right here.
The challenge modes, you said gear would scale with when you're in there. Does it scale up as well as down?
Currently, we're planning for it to scale down. Although we have talked about possibly, instead of doing that, we could also just scale all of the monsters' power up. So instead of, because we've been worried that maybe just scaling the gear down might make people feel less powerful because it's going down. So an alternative to that would be just scaling all the monsters up and then having the gear level be higher. So there's still a little bit of give and take on that.
No problem. Next one. Who's got one? There you go. Step up. There we go. This guy's ready.
Regarding the Dungeon Finder and Raid Finder,
Right.
are we going to be able to enter a random queue for possibly like Burning Crusade raids and Wrath of the Lich King and stuff like that?
Currently,
Yeah, currently we've talked about it a little bit. One of the things we're concerned about is is there actually going to be enough people to fill that queue? How many people, like, if a lot of people, like, when they go back into those old raids, it's specifically because they're like looking for transmog gear now. They're trying to get achievements with their friends, for their guilds or whatever. So we're not sure if necessarily like random raid or Raid Finder is a fit for those kinds of cases. We'll see. Like Raid Finder, certainly, like once we were like really, debut it in 4.3, see how it works, improve it for 5.0. In the future, we certainly could do that kind of thing.
yeah, it's not off the table. It's just a question of would we have enough people in the queue to make it work.
Thank you. All right, come on up.
Hey.
Hey.
You were talking about how the dungeons are now visible in the outside world, but as far as I remember, in Burning Crusade, there were a lot of examples where they were. Why did you decide to actually forget about it in this expansion, but actually are going back to it? What made you forget?
Over time, we've had dungeons that have existed in the outdoor world before. You could imagine players that went to Scarlet Monastery had always seen it in the world. It's just one of those things that we didn't focus on all the time. And there's a secondary thing to it that you're not really going to see until you're actually playing. But for example, the Storm Stout Brewery, since it exists in the outdoor world, the quest guys have actually quested up all the area around it, but they're also using the dungeon itself for quests on the inside. So there's actually some quests where you can actually go inside the dungeon and have to fight, see some of the bosses that you're going to fight in the dungeon, but you interact with them on a quest basis solo. So it's really opened up a lot of new gameplay opportunities for the quest guys, as well as just the fact that it really has a sense of place in the world.
Yeah, and there have been a few that have been like that. Zul'Farrak was one like that, but when you actually see the scale of these inside the game, it's really super impressive. They make, they really make the zones come alive. Seeing this, really huge focal point for.
Historically, we've had to scale them to be smaller. So here they're at a 1-to-1 scale, so they actually have an awesome impact on the zones.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Come on up.
Hi. Given the increased focus on doing multiple things, are we going to be able to do quests in a raid group?
That's a great question. I mean, really, that's not a lot of reasons why we don't allow that, other than the fact that we don't want a large number of people able to beat certain quest mechanics. But now with the advent of scenarios and the fact that our group quests might end up moving towards scenarios, it might not be as much of an issue.
I think we might be pulling that for 4.3.
Yeah.
I'll have to check. We talked about that recently.
Yeah, it's definitely been talked about.
Thank you. All right, come on up. Say Blues Brother.
That's right. I have a question about the kick process. Usually in some groups, you try to kick somebody for being stupid, and it says a 3-hour wait period. When most 5-mans are 10 and 20 minutes long, or maybe an hour long.
We have an internal algorithm, I guess you could call it, that works for our kicking, and it actually keeps track of the number of times you kick someone, how long, how many times that person has been kicked, and it actually modifies that number dynamically based on kind of the history of your kicking. So we can kind of know, are you excessively kicking people for no reason, or are you the kind of person that, you come across someone occasionally and then they'll get kicked right away. But that's essentially what you're seeing, is that algorithm working, trying to help the fact that, someone doesn't get kicked that doesn't necessarily deserve it. That's essentially, we're just trying to have that system feel as best as we can. Because we want to allow people to kick, but we don't want people to be kicked for no reason.
Yeah, we want people to be kicked.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we want people to be kicked for the right reason and not for the lulls.
All right, come on up.
At the Cataclysm Lost, you talked about having the 3 raids as well and like 13 bosses in the tier, and you're talking about doing that for Mists of Pandaria as well. Yeah. But then in the later patches of Cataclysm, like 4.2 and 4.3, you're down to 7 and 8 bosses respectively. Is that just the nature of patches, or do you plan on having bigger tiers in the patches of Pandaria as well?
We haven't actually figured out, we haven't finalized what the tier plan will be for all the launch raids. For example, we don't know if we're going to have 2 tiers and split those up, or if they're actually going to be combined into 1 tier. A lot of that comes into how we're going to actually, get loot to the players. A lot of what we're talking about here today is that there's so many other ways to get loot, so we have to make sure that the loot we give out in the raids matches up with all the other ways that we're allowing you to get items in the game. So a lot of that's just, we still haven't figured it out.
Thank you.
In Cataclysm, there was a very steep jump in difficulty between level 85 normals and 85 heroics, which was great, but the side effect of that was that at the 85 normals, there was only the 2, 3 that you end up running over and over and over again, and it was quickly tiresome. How are you going to handle that for Pandarian? Will there be more level 90 normals, or the sort of same 2, 3, then jump to the heroics?
We're currently not planning to have level 90 normal dungeons at all in Mists of Pandaria. We're planning to have the level up dungeons, and then heroics, and then challenge modes is the way you would see that flowing as far as like if your progression of content. Because of challenge modes, the normal and our heroics would be at a little bit of a lower difficulty level than what you saw in Cataclysm, because people that are looking for that extra level of difficulty could do the challenge modes.
Yeah, it's as you noted, like there wasn't really enough content to support a full tier with level 85 normals. And looking at Mists of Pandaria, we didn't feel like there was, we'd rather like spend our time working on the heroics, making that tier like super awesome, making the level ups really amazing. And just, we couldn't really make that one super awesome, so we just decided to cut it.
They're in this weird middle ground, so it's hard to make them feel as awesome as a heroic or a level up.
Right side of the road, okay. Left side of the road, okay. In the middle, squish like craig. That's what happened with those normals.
Thank you. All right, come on.
Hi, my question's about hard mode toggling. Ulduar was the first hard mode. You guys said that was cool, but you had to go to the internet to figure out how to push a button and make Memoron mad. You went to on-off toggle. Last year you guys said you didn't like it, to go to the internet, but now the Dungeons rolls in. Can we go back to maybe having Sartharian bring drakes, or leaving the trees up in Freya's room activate additional abilities? That was kind of more fun than turn on hard mode, have more health, do more damage.
That's something, those were, like you said, those were really fun. The idea that you could sort of like choose, effectively multiple difficulties for the fight, I think was pretty compelling. But as you noted, in the end, it was very difficult to come up with that kind of mechanic for every single boss. Like, it worked out great with Freya because she had, the sub bosses with her. It worked out great with the Iron Council because there was 3 of them, and which order it made sense. Well, which order you did it in. But then you had bosses, and Mimiron was awesome. Like, if we could do another boss where a big red button made him angry, I'm totally down for that. Big red buttons, total win in my book. But there was others. The Frost one where it was very hidden. It was like, did you do it in time? Okay. And that's really all there was to it. So we really like, we can make these more consistent with a toggle, with a normal heroic toggle. It makes it more understandable to the players. There's a lot of weirdness that went on where it's like, oh, we're going to try for normal, but they're like, oh, we kind of screwed up, so let's like stop this. We're not. So it's much clearer, and that's what I think. When we're talking about the goals, making things understandable is a very important thing for all players.
Thank you.
My question is about the legendary items. Right now, you guys currently randomly choose the legendary to a class that hasn't gotten one for a while. But why can't you make a universal legendary quest chain that guilds can give the item to the most dedicated raider that deserves it at the time? So one guild may give it to their healer, another guild may give it to their tank or melee DPS, but they all have different abilities.
We could do something like that, but I think you lose the luster of the fact that anyone could get it at that point. What we like about what we have now is you build a lot of build-up around that one legendary. Like, rogues are about to get the next legendary now. And they've been waiting a long time to get their legendary, right? And we can design, what's really cool about it is the quest line to get it has all this specific rogue gameplay. You're sneaking around, you're pickpocketing, you're using rogue abilities all over the place specifically for it. So I think for us, it really feels like making sure that it's for one specific type of gameplay, like a class, makes it really feel right. And so that's what we did here. I mean, we could definitely open it up, but I think it would lose some of that luster, some of that exclusivity.
Yeah, you want unique and awesome or generic and mushy? We go with unique and awesome.
Thank you.
It's a cool idea, though.